friends. We're going to take a trip together today through this box set called Years of Lead. 5 classic Italian crime thrillers, 1973 to 1977. Those were the days. By Arrow Video. This is one of my gems that I acquired in the Arrow spring sale, which everything was half off. The staggering sale. So I made my way through this whole box set, and it coheres really well as like of a piece, you know, thematically. And I really dig that. I can't say that there's, you know, 5. I can't say there's any one really classic, you know, brilliant, earth-shaking film in here. The last one in the set, No, the Case is Happily Resolved, probably comes the closest to just a solid, powerful, stand on its own kind of work. But really, it's kind of like the crown gem to the set. It's good that they put it last. And on it, they included, on that particular film's bonus features, they included a documentary. This stuff is so hard to read. Poliziotteschi, Violence and Justice in the Years of Lead, a visual essay by critic Will Webb. All right, Will Webb. So yes, that was an incredible documentary. I watched it twice, and he goes over all 5 of these movies. So I guess the documentary was made for this set, knowing what titles were going to go in it. I mean, unless they put forth the idea, thesis of these films represent the Years of Lead, let's make a box set, and you know. So regardless of what order the steps came in to make this come together, I think it works really well. So in my unboxing video, I didn't want to dig all into details of the box set on its own, but I'm going to now. So I'm going to read you, the back of the box set slipcase, and then I'm going to trip through each disc, and there's 3 discs. The first 2 have 2 films each and bonus features. The third has 1 film and bonus features. The 1970s were a time of intense uncertainty and instability in Italy. Political corruption and widespread acts of left and right-wing terrorism, alongside a breakdown in social cohesion and a loss of trust in public institutions such as the government and police, created a febrile atmosphere of cynicism, paranoia, and unexploded rage. Throughout this period, these sentiments found expression in a series of brutal, often morally ambiguous crime thrillers which tapped into the atmosphere of violence and instability that defined the so-called Years of Lead. Okay, quick insert here. In that documentary I just cited, he mentions that actually that was a social period, an actual thing, the Years of Lead. It's not just the name of this box set to sum up the themes of these particular Euro crime thrillers. So it was really a thing in Italy. I didn't know that before. I learned a lot from this box set. That's one point I really want to make is how educational it was watching this stuff. Okay, let me continue. This box set gathers 5 films from the heyday of the quote-unquote Poliziotteschi. Some people call it Poliziotteschi. I don't know. Poliziotteschi. I say Poliziotteschi. The umbrella term used to describe this diverse body of films. So that's essentially the same thing as Eurocrime, except Poliziotteschi is Italian Eurocrime. Does that make sense? Kind of like Euro Westerns would encompass spaghetti Westerns, i.e. Italian productions or co-productions, but also Spanish spaghetti Westerns that were Spanish productions and sometimes Spanish and other countries' co-productions. There were Spanish giallos, for instance. There were Greek giallos. Now, I haven't heard the term Euro giallo. I have heard because giallo is Italian. I have heard the term Euro thriller, but it's usually a broader term encompassing like a whole ton of other more mainstream films. But this is for another day, okay? All right. In Vittorio Salerno's Savage 3, which was originally called FANGO Fango Ballente, 1975, and Mario Imperioli's Like Rabid Dogs, 1976, which is a literal translation of its Italian name. And not to be confused with the Mario Bava Rabid Dogs, which also is a literal translation of its Italian name, but it was unreleased at the time it was made, which was shortly before this. It's kind of weird. Random acts of violence committed by vicious young sociopaths threaten the fragile fabric of respectable society. And Massimo Dallamano's Colt 35, Special Squad, 1976 or 6, and Stelvio Massi's Highway Racer, 1977. Renegade cops battling against red tape and political corruption turned to new and morally dubious methods to dispense tactics. Finally, class dynamics are explored in Salerno's Know the Case. It's happily resolved, 1973, as an innocent man finds himself under suspicion for savage crime committed by a highly respected member of society. That particular film I already had a copy of. I had burnt it along with a series of DVDs, 300 actually, that I burnt from rarelust.com. So I had seen it before, and it is the most powerful, like I said, and probably most well-made of this bunch. And of course, what they just said evokes the film, Elio Petri's film, Investigation of a Citizen Above Suspicion, which is a bit earlier with Gian Maria Volente and incredible Florinda Balkan, which, you know, a highly respected member of society commits a crime and then also is in charge of investigating it. And he actually throws out clues that he did it. And against all logic, the people assisting the investigation never suspect him. It's almost like he keeps trying, like, catch me. And there's like, that guy could never do it, so there's no reason to even think about that. Strong commentary, I think. And that one I believe won the Oscar for Best Foreign Film that year. Decried by critics for their supposedly fascistic overtones, the Poliziotteschi were in fact more ideologically varied and often considerably more nuanced than such superficial readings would suggest, and proved a huge hit with theatergoers who responded in their articulation of present-day social concerns. Featuring an impressive lineup of Eurocult stars, including Joe D'Alessandro, Ivan Rasimov, Maurizio Merli, and Enrico Maria Salerno, this collection of stylish, hard-hitting Eurocrime thrillers showcases the range and breadth of the genre and is a must-have for newcomers and grizzled veterans alike. I guess I'm somewhere in the middle there. I have some friends who are grizzled veterans of these movies, though, I admit. And I have plenty of friends who are newcomers also, so I'm kind of right in the middle. Right now, I'm currently making my way through the Violent Streets box set by Severin, which has 5 films, all directed by Umberto Lenzi, and all starring or co-starring Tomas Milian. And I haven't formed an overall cohesive view of that yet because I've only watched 3 of the 5 films, though the other 2 I haven't watched yet. I have seen before, but I haven't seen these restored versions. So, but already on some of the bonus features, especially interviews with writers, I'm getting the impression that there is, at least in their mind, some kind of thematic cohesion. There's actually some crossovers. Something my good friend Sean Levin, who's soon going to be joining this channel in its expanded capacity as a producer. He's written books about crossovers in fiction, and there's some interesting things strung through 2 or 3 of those films in that Violent Street box set concerning characters played by Tomas Milian as conceived by the writer Dardanos Laschetti. So anyway, let's just kind of flip through these. I'll just talk about some highlights. So Savage 3, Fango Ballente, I don't know what that means yet. I haven't looked at the meaning, by Vittorio Salerno. Yes, he is Enrico Maria Salerno's brother. I didn't know that for certain until I watched it. There's a very long interview with him on here. a slightly shorter one on the no, the case is happily resolved. The interview is incredible. He talks about the whole conception of it and what he was trying to do. And there's a long interview with Joe D'Alessandro, who I wasn't even sure if he was alive, retired, spaced out on something, Sid Barrett style, though that's kind of exaggerated. You know, I don't know what happened. I didn't know what happened to Joe D'Alessandro. So he is alive, and he looks nothing like he used to in his kind of pretty boy, handsome star days. You know, he was discovered by Andy Warhol in the factory days, the late '60s. His superstars, and he talks about all of it. It's like a 45-minute interview, and it's really incredible, totally candid. He goes through all of his career. He goes through how he was discovered, why he was cast, how he was cast in movies, how he acted, like what his inclination and how to act was, how he was trained to act by different directors, and how like this language barrier between him and the Italian-speaking directors, you know, provided an ongoing, you know, problem. And you know, then he talks about also his relationships with, and I don't necessarily mean romantic, but some of them were, with some of the other factory stars like Holly Woodlawn and Candy Darling, etc. So it's amazing. It's pretty revelatory. And you know, he was in all the Andy Warhol kind of Andy Warhol's this, that, and the other single title movies, Trash Heat, Flesh, whatever. Sorry. And also Flesh for Frankenstein and Blood for Dracula. All 5 of those films are directed by Paul Morrissey under Warhol's production. And then Warhol produced one called Andy Warhol's Bad, where he had switched directors, and originally D'Alessandro was supposed to star in that. I don't know who took his character's place per se, but it ended up starring Carol Baker and Charles McGregor. That's the first Andy Warhol movie I ever saw, actually. Andy Warhol's Bad. I rented it in 1992. I would really like to see it again. I don't know if it's going to be released or has been released on Blu-ray. I've watched to various degrees the Flesh, Trash, Heat trilogy, if you want to call it that. Had mixed feelings about it. Had mixed feelings about D'Alessandro's acting. He's also in Louis Malle's Black Moon, which is a really exquisite movie that I reviewed a couple of years ago on here. But the Frankenstein Dracula movies, I've seen them each 2 or 3 times. I never owned any of these films though. But after talking to my good buddy and advisor Tim McLean, I'm going to give the Warhol Morrissey films that aren't, you know, horror another turn. But anyway, he seems like a cool guy in this. I mean, it really it's really interesting to hear someone's technique and their thoughts about how they approach this stuff. So in the movie, you know, basically it's 3 guys who work for this high-tech computer firm, and they're I mean, it's really the old days, literally the old days of extremely large computers, and all the circuits are, gigantic, and all these various colors and designs. And really, to watch the way they look now, it looks even more like science fiction than maybe some people were regarding it when it was new. Even though we've, of course, far surpassed all of that, and we've got microcircuitry that's, you know, unbelievably tiny now. And we all live in this thing right here, and it's amazing. But there is a little sci-fi-ish kind of edge in it, because Enrico Maria Salerno, who's just incredible in this, he does his brother a solid and plays, you guessed it, a policeman, which he played constantly. And originally his brother didn't want him to be in it, just because I don't want him to be in it just because he's my brother. You know, it's getting old. But he ends up getting it anyway. And Salerno has this kind of meeting of the minds occasionally with D'Alessandro's computer programmer character. He's like the prehistoric Pleistocene 1975 computer programmer, the pre-Bill Gates computer programmer. And it's a very frustrating, demeaning, degrading corporate job, apparently. But Salerno, they kind of have this kind of mental chess game going. Actually, they talk about betting on the races and all this kind of stuff. It's basically Salerno's kind of code. He's kind of fucking with D'Alessandro's character Ovidio. He's fucking with Ovidio's mind to figure out how Salerno wants to know how to use the computer to solve these murders that are spontaneously happening all over whatever Italian city they're located in. I forgot. And they're getting increasingly brutal, more random, but Salerno's guy sees a pattern, of course, a pattern in the lack of pattern, I guess you could say. And so he kind of, towards the end of the movie, he's figured out that he's the linchpin of this Ovidio. Each of these three guys has these crazy, turbulent home lives. One of the guys still lives at home with his parents. I mean, they're all like 30, 25 to 30-year-old guys. And one guy still lives with his parents who are fighting all the time. One guy has this extended family that he's supporting with his computer programming salary. And then D'Alessandro's got a wife played by a gorgeous actress who's in a ton of these movies. And of course, I've forgotten her name. And she's got very, very striking red hair in this. And she's a doctor. So she's actually, upper class of him, but they both come from lower classes. And she struggled to get her way up. And sadly, it wasn't all her medical acumen. Some of it was her oral sex skills with the chief of staff. And it was kind of sleazy. And of course, D'Alessandro kind of, at least, she's honest about it. He knows about it. He's not happy about it. He's kind of indifferent. And, but after he keeps getting away with these crimes, he begins to feel more and more liberated and to kind of just go off the chain, off the reservation or whatever, not to be politically incorrect. And so he starts pressuring her and even shoots the guy, not to kill him, but to humiliate him. Literally shoots him in the ass during this party where some people are hunting. And but she still doesn't know he's in charge of these murders. And they kill random citizens. They kill a prostitute and a John and a pimp, and they kill this truck driver. They jam a screwdriver into his belly, a la David Lynch's Inland Empire, except in that one she's carrying around this screwdriver still in her belly. This guy doesn't quite die. You're not sure if he dies or not, but actually Salerno, the director Vittorio, says he based that on a real incident. He calls these incidents ecological crimes, and that was something he had heard them called in real life, and it was what he dubbed them. The phenomenon. He was reading Vittorio was reading all the newspapers, and so there's a lot of like with a lot of these kind of movies, there's a lot of capturing of the trends in social cultural trends of Italy at the time, as far as politics, crime, etc., and class issues, social concerns. But he had actually heard somebody had just randomly killed somebody they didn't know with gutting them with a screwdriver because they got frustrated with them. It's interesting hearing this perspective from this guy talking in the modern day. Well, this interview was probably done a few years ago, but not that many for Arrow. And but talking in the modern day about stuff that happened in another country in the 1970s and seeing how these kind of crimes have played out in America over the years since. I mean, you could even go to a few years after these movies and watch The Killing of America by Leonard Schrader, and it kind of addresses some of this same kind of stuff, the stuff that's festering. That was when the age of the serial killer was just dawning, and that kind of, that and assassinations like of John Lennon are the linchpin of that movie, which I'd love to do a formal review of one day. I've got a great Blu-ray of that, which I'm pretty sure is Severin also. I don't work for Severin, by the way, not just hyping them because I like them. But anyway, so yeah, it ends kind of badly. One guy actually gets caught of these three cats in Savage 3, one of the Savage 3, and the other guy kind of gets abandoned by Ovidio, and he kind of goes his own way and starts getting more and more outrageous. basically, anyone who gets in his way, he just shoots them in broad daylight out in public, or kills them. He thinks I can keep getting away with this all the way to his job where he's going to probably pretty much perpetrate a workplace massacre. So this kind of, in a way presages all of these, office incident kind of nightmarish kind of films and events in real life, I guess, but definitely in films that has been used several times. The workman, salaryman kind of guy just exploding. A movie that most people have never seen that I think does a great job with it is He Was a Quiet Man with Christian Slater. That's exactly what it's about, And then of course, Office Space is like the non-violent version, where they don't explode; they just like cause mischief to get, But that's kind of what's going to happen here. But Salerno just Here comes the spoilers. You can always rely on me. Salerno just blows him away. I mean, he knows this guy. He's almost become friends with him. As a lot of heroes and villains, like you and me. Like in Mr. Glass and Unbreakable. He shoots him like 4 or 5 times. And they're like, "Did you have to kill him, Inspector?" And he just kind of shakes it off. The next movie is Imperioli. Imperioli, I've never really seen any of his movies. He's a much more of a slack technical director, I have to say. Definitely kind of guerrilla on the run kind of action stuff, but not as well pulled off as like by Umberto Lenzi. I'm still regaining my voice. So hopefully I can get through all these movies before I, start literally croaking. Hopefully not dying croaking. So Rabid Dogs, yeah, it's 3 privileged white, well, they're all white, young people, and the ringleader is this woman, this mysterious, kind of sexy, vicious woman, and then the guy who's kind of bankrolling the thing is this heir to some fortune, and of course the policeman who's trying to solve this has his eye on that guy as being behind these increasingly outrageous murders, but the people that he works for are all bureaucracy, they're all red tape, familiar themes in all of these kind of films, and of course along the same time period in America, you had that happening in the Dirty Harry movies with Clint Eastwood. So, and in Serpico, for instance, which is based on a real story, where you got the good cops, fighting the system to be able to take down the really bad people, even if they have to use violence. I mean, in Serpico's case, it's a little different. The corruption was within the department. In Dirty Harry's, he's just like, I don't give a fuck. We're just going to go ahead and finally get rid of these criminals and blow their head off with a magnum. And so there's a lot of that Dirty Harry sentiment in Poliziotteschi films, especially movies starring Maurizio Merli. That guy was like the king of these movies, and he bitch slaps people in almost every movie. He just bitch slaps them constantly in the face, and then of course invariably shoots them. And but he has that kind of savage, Dirty Harry like, disregard for protocols, just going to kill the thugs and be done with it. Maurizio Merli, it does appear in a movie on this box set. I'll get to it because it's my favorite one in some ways. So, Imperioli's like Rabid Dogs. It's fun. It's chaotic. It's not particularly tightly made. So let's move on to Massimo Dallamano's Cult 38 Special Squad. That's on disc 2, and that one, I actually expected a little more out of it. I'd seen it a long time ago. I didn't remember anything about it. I didn't even remember that Dallamano directed it. And I was reappreciating Dallamano recently via seeing the Blu-ray of What Have You Done to Our Daughters. I've always been a big fan of his What Have You Done to Solange. But another of his films, Bandidos, in the Vengeance Trail spaghetti western box set I picked up from Arrow. I'm not going to go through that box as a box set, but I probably will review at least one of the movies in there, and I think it probably will be Bandidos. I thought it to be an exceptional movie, one of Dallamano's strongest, and it had a kind of almost ironic commentary by Kat Ellinger, and she kind of expressed this like, okay, so the kind of movies I usually talk about and my concerns and everything, and why am I reviewing this, macho spaghetti western? And she really dives under the layers of it, and that one also stars Enrico Maria Salerno in a really incredible, sympathetic part. So that's a great one. That to me probably next to Solange is now my favorite Dallamano. Now he did a couple of literary adaptations, probably loosely, that I've always seen for rent and video stores through the years. I see the Blu-rays for sale. He did A Venus in Furs, and he did Portrait of Dorian Gray. I still have never seen either one. I've seen a little bit of his Venus in Furs. His Venus in Furs does have more to do with Leopold Sacher-Masoch's novel than Jess Franco's Venus in Furs, which I reviewed on this channel and did a massive, love ode to that got thousands of hits, and I appreciate that, guys. So anyway, so the Colt 38 didn't really do a whole lot for me. It's Marcel Bofuzzi, who's always good in character supporting roles. He's an oddball, but yeah. But anyway, there's some cool interviews on that one, about that one, and then also on the same disc though is Highway Racer 1977. With Maurizio Merli. That's by Stelvio Massi. Stelvio Massi cranked out a lot of these. He was one of the top, Poliziotteschi guys, along with Fernando De Leo and Alberto Lenzi, as far as cranking a whole ton of them out. Highway Racer really surprised me. Merli is his most likable role of the many movies I've seen him in. He's really very charming. It's very 1977 when it was made. His hair he's got he usually has like kind of a big bleach blonde coif here, but he's got a newly layered kind of pre-1980s, presaging the 80s layered, haircut, kind of ready for the disco era, right in the right year, 1977, when the two sevens cross. And he's basically a cop who goes undercover, and and one of the guys he goes against is basically a highway racer, expert getaway car driver, and so, and this presages Walter Hill's The Driver, which itself is the template for Nicholas Winding Refn's Drive. I used to hate Drive for being so derivative of The Driver. Once I got over that, though, I really do like Drive. I think The Driver by Walter Hill is incredible. Highway Racer, I don't think is as good as The Driver, but I think it's better than Drive. I would, you could have a triple feature with all three of them. So somebody put that together one night, invite your friends, I don't know, bring some ganja, cocktails, whatever, gets you excited, and watch these three films together in chronological order. So watch Highway Racer, that was the first, The Driver, and then Drive. If I owned all three, I would do that. The Driver's not on Blu-ray yet, to my knowledge, unfortunately. Drive, I'll eventually own, eventually. The Highway Racer, it turned out to be quite a nice surprise. It was one I had not seen in the set. And I really liked his character. I liked that there was like this, the stunts were amazing. I don't know how they did some of this shit without getting killed. And which is interesting because the characters themselves, like Merli's character, isn't sure how the criminal that he's going undercover to smoke out does these things without getting killed. And this kind of honor thing, this kind of heroic bloodshed, low-key, homoerotic, manly bonding respect comes between these characters, and I thought it was great. I thought it was really, really, really well done. And in the end, the cop, gets away alive and victorious, but at what cost? There's a moral price to pay. It's a really good movie. I highly, highly recommend that one. I wish I could say something incredible like Maurizio Merli's ghost rose from the dead to do in a seance to do an audio commentary on this one, but No, you can't always have no frills on these sets. So the last movie on its disc of its own, No, the Case is Happily Resolved, which is a literal translation of the Italian. This one has this guy. I always forget his name though. Terrible with this cat. I've seen him as a character actor in a lot of movies. I think he is in Mario Bava's Rabid Dogs, actually. Riccardo Cucciulio, apparently he won an Oscar for or Italian film award, or he won an incredibly highly honored acting award for his role in the Sacco Vanzetti film. So right after that, they went ahead and cast him in this movie, and they were going to cast a more mainstream actor, and they're like, well, that guy's never going to do it, and he's probably too mainstream. Let's get this fella. And that guy's like, yeah, I always play good guys. I want to play a bad guy. So he plays kind of an ambiguous character in the Bava movie. But like I said, that movie was not released until the late 1990s. So Cacciola he's pretty chilling. This movie's very well made, and this is also Vittorio Salerno. And also has his brother Enrico. He went in and relented. Like, oh, okay, Enrico, you can play in this one too. Also plays kind of, he's a reporter. So basically, Cacciola, I'm not gonna say his name right. Cacciola. I'll just go with that. Cacciola's character, you can tell by this cover here. He commits this heinous murder in the beginning, and it's filmed like panned left to right through this big field of like wheat and big stalks, corn stalks, and there's a half-clad woman running from him, and he's just beating her with like what is it, like a crowbar or something here, a pipe, just until she's finally dead. Her corpse is grisly to look at. Great makeup. I mean, it's really a striking image, and he gets away scot-free. A guy, an everyman kind of character played by a guy I didn't know who he was, Enzo Tarosico. This cat, Enzo, I didn't know, but apparently he was a TV star. But he was happy to get this role too. Apparently, the script really excited the people who were involved with it, and he witnesses the crime, but he doesn't report it. And I think part of it is he doesn't think someone's going to believe him. He's not sure. And at that point, he doesn't know that this guy is this highly respected, professor guy. And, this elder statesman kind of figure in the community, professore. And so, but what the professor does is turn the tables, and before this guy has a chance to do anything, he actually frames that guy who witnessed it because he saw him witnessing him. So it's like that Argento kind of thing, except it's not like a lost memory imprinted on their eyeball or anything, or they're just on the corner precipice of their mind and memory. He definitely sees him, and Cacciola knows he sees Cacciola. And Cacciola frames him, and it's fucked up. So he gets arrested, and he tries to backtrack, and eventually he tries to tell a cop the truth, and they can't really hold him without all the evidence. But this guy's testimony against him, the professor, is so clear and sharp because obviously he was there because he did it. And his word is taken at face value, again, like this investigation of a citizen above suspicion kind of situation. And the end of the movie, you're pretty much stuck with, no, the case is happily resolved. In other words, back off Salerno, Enrico, not his brother, the director. Back off, reporter, and we've solved it. And this guy's, going to either go to prison for life or probably get the death penalty for this. And that's it. And apparently the original ending was just like, that's it. And they have the alternate ending on here. And really, there's not a whole lot of difference between the alternate ending and the other ending that they use. The ending, except it drags out a little bit more. And according to the people they interview about the ending change, the original ending, because of the way it's shot, and the final scene kind of dragged out, so Salerno has kind of hinted to strongly implied to the professor that he knows he did it, and he's gonna, get him. And then he kind of walks down the street, smoking. Very well shot, but I think they thought, for some reason, they thought that was too, I guess, ambiguous for people, or maybe unambiguous. They thought it was pretty much saying, yeah, but he's never going to catch him. So this guy's going to die. The wrong man is convicted. There's nothing that the reporter can do. But I didn't read it that way. But the main ending of the movie, the one they did use, yes, does make it a bit more explicit than implicit that, yes, this reporter, played by Mr. Salerno, is going to fuck up this professor when he can, which is a good thought, and very, very well played by these two actors. Just really incredible. I don't know. So yeah, this movie alone, I highly recommend. So, and this documentary, like I said, about the genre itself, but focusing on these 5 movies and similarities between them, and as far as like social concerns and themes, that documentary is absolutely essential. So that's it, man. That's the Years of Lead. Thank you. I've made a video under an hour. Thank the gods. And I'll be back. As soon as my voice gets better, I'll be pumping out more videos. Thank you for all the incredible reaction to the Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut video. Wow. And keep ears open for the expanded podcast, which hopefully is going to drop a first episode by the end of May. We shall see. I'll keep you posted. So I love you guys. Please like and subscribe. Rock on.